You are back inside the game, or as as they say at EA Sports, EA Sports, you're in the game. You
It's
remember
in
those
the game.
video
It's in the game.
in the game, as opposed to inside the game. You remember those old video games? Did you play like
Yeah.
the early 2000s video games where they would like
Yeah.
do it on the sidelines? I miss that, man. They got to bring that back. Like that was so signature sports games, like
There's no
leading up to it,
intro
the little
anymore.
intro. No, there's not. And
It's
I don't know if I'm.
It's
What's
just a
that?
photo. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, it's just a cover. It's just a covered photo, which I know with Madden, obviously there's like a curse involved there. But no, I used to like the intros, and to be completely frank with you, I used to love like just the presentation of the old games. Like the actual games that you would play, the broadcasts actually look like broadcasts. Like they would have B-roll shots of like people walking into the stadium and like with their tickets and like doing all the things you would normally see on a broadcast. Now it's just like they just cut in and you play. I think it's just because everything's online now with gameplay. Like it's not like you're not just sitting there playing by yourself. You can, and there are a lot of people that do, but mostly it's online play. It's against your friends. It's whatever. Sorry, I don't know what got me off on this tangent about video games, but
I
I
don't
miss
know
it,
either. We
man.
didn't even talk about video games
You know?
beforehand. So
Yeah. Well,
I, I don't know.
like,
That's
what's the plan? Here we go. But no, I got my old Xbox 360 from home actually behind me yesterday. I retrieved it from the parents' house. It's been locked away in storage for forever. And so I was looking through some of those games that I have, and I got some early 2K games. But welcome back on Inside the Game. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky. You're watching episode 219. And Ryan, as we get ready to talk about a lot of World Cup stuff on the list today, a lot about the U.S. men's national team. We talked about the women's team yesterday, blanking Chile, Trinity Rodman scoring a goal. They just seem like an unstoppable force as we get closer and closer to 2027. But a couple of big things we have to take care of in 26. Obviously, the Olympics, but most notably the World Cup. So a lot of U.S. men's national team topics on there. But what are you looking forward to the most talking about today?
well, anything really about the men's national team because I thought Pochettino had a lot of good things to say, a lot of interesting things that you kind of have to read in between the lines. Again, the guy doesn't speak English, so he's not really going to give you some really descriptive answers because he's just trying to say his words, not sound as stupid as possible, and get out of there. So you're gonna get to read in between the lines a little bit. Obviously, Michigan State hyped up for tonight. And you mentioned the 2026 Olympics. Watching the Red Wings game yesterday, and I think I watched the weirdest hockey goal ever scored with Alex DeBrincat, where
Oh my goodness, yeah.
he shot it and it bounced off of the photographer's glass and it took a weird bounce off the ice and went off the back of the Capitals gold Lindgren off his back and went in. I thought that was weird. So I'm hyped for the 2026 Olympics here in probably a week or so.
Yeah.
No, I'm hyped to watch Team USA and they got the big guys in there. So for all the nations, so I'm hyped to watch.
You know what we didn't do, and I guess it's something we could do. We didn't go through the U.S. men's national team, our hockey team, our national team roster. That'd be something certainly interesting to look at. Canada is just as they are. Anytime they allow NHL players or the top end players to participate in the Winter Olympics, you know Canada is going to have the most stacked roster, like by far, and they do again. I know Sid's on there. I could probably guess as to who the rest are, but part of me just wants to get revenge over them because of what happened in was it Vancouver in 2010. I think we talked about that already with the with those Olympics. That was a heartbreaker, but maybe one of these times we go through that list because it's coming up quick.
Yeah, maybe. But I think if
So,
anything, they all have the four nations on their mind about in terms of revenge. So
no,
I think
yeah.
they'll be set. I don't think any
From
of
an
these players
Olympic
were playing in
standpoint,
2010.
Sidney Crosby was. Sid actually scored the game-winning
I'm
goal for
saying in the
Canada.
U.S. I don't think any of these players played
Okay.
in
All right.
2010, so they all got the
From an
Four Nations underway.
Olympic standpoint, though, but also, yeah, I mean, in any final, Canada still is just they're one step ahead of us in several respects. So, but anyways, getting into the soccer conversation here today, starting off, Mauricio Pochettino talked a little bit to the media about the March window, saying that the World Cup starts in the March window, and leading up to the World Cup, it's pretty clear they're going to be playing some of the best. So, what did Poach say specifically yesterday?
He just said that the World Cup starts in March. There he says everything from here on out is in preparation for the World Cup. I mean, I can't really hate it, and there's really nothing else to say. He just said that every single game from here on out, every training session is they're treated like a World Cup training session. They're making sure everyone is ready. Obviously, there's a lot of things that they can't control. We talked about why some coaches and managers might not ever want to manage an international team because you can't control a lot of things. You can only control your player pool, and you can't control injuries, and you can only control like probably a month's worth of games a year, except for tournaments and stuff. That's a little different story with the Euros and the World Cups and the Copa Americas. But he basically just said, you know what? Let's in March we got everything going on. They have a couple of big friendlies coming up. I know Portugal's in there, Belgium's in there at some point, Germany's in there at some point. So they scheduled. I got to give Pochettino credit. They scheduled some really tough teams, some really good teams that we'll see later on in the World Cup potentially in the knockout stage. So again, getting themselves ready, and he basically said like every single player that you've seen in the last calendar year in the last 365 days, no one else knew was coming in. So we'll be talking about those 56 players that have made a cap this past year. Who's actually in the mix? Who's out? We'll be talking about that one a little bit later on in the show, and briefly. Hopefully we don't get into too much of a debate on certain players. But no, it's he's just basically gearing everything up for the World Cup, and I can't really hate it. I like it actually, and it's weird to think that I actually like a U.S. men's national team decision and what their actual thought process is. But no, they are 100% ready to get this thing rolling, and I'm sure they can't wait for June to come.
Yeah, and the mentality obviously has to shift now, and we know it because we're playing some of the top teams in the world leading up to the 26 World Cup, and that starts now. And we've talked about what exactly the future slate of games looks like. Obviously, the send-off game will be against Germany. We got Portugal in there. We got Senegal. We're playing Belgium. I mean, we're playing some top dogs and some competitors. So absolutely, I almost think it's a given that Mauricio Pochettino is saying the mentality is changing, and now it's rubber meets pavement. That is what we are at. That's the mentality. That's the place that we're at right now, going all the way until we play our first game actually in the World Cup. But it also brings out a couple of different players, and I know we're going to go through our list of players who have made a cap, who figuring out where on the team they'll be. But just some talking points, all right? Just some main lines that I'm thinking about going into what the March window will be leading up to the festivities of the World Cup here in the United States. First of all, Christian Pulisic, we have to see you in top form. Okay, we've seen what you've done for AC Milan. We've seen what you've done in Serie A and how you've established yourself as one of the best players, if not the best player, and a lot of people can make that argument in Italian football right now. You have journalists actually saying that historically you are already amongst some of the best to ever play in that league. That seems like blasphemy to most people who don't want to give American soccer players any credit, okay? You've been good at the club level. We need you to produce with the national team and give us hope going into the 2026 World Cup, all right? Captain America, that's on your shoulders. Weston McKennie, we need to see all of those tools that you have in your skill set. We need to see the explosiveness. We need to see your dynamic play, set up this team so that we can put pressure on a lot of these A-sides. Luciano Spalletti has talked in length about how much he loves your skill set and what you can do. Talked about you as a striker, which is obviously not going to happen in this context. However, the dynamic play, the explosiveness, everything that you do, that will set up this team for success in the 26 World Cup, but we need to see it leading up to it. Matt Freese, you're the guy, okay? Matt Turner served his purpose. I thought he was great, but clearly he's not the guy anymore. You're the guy. And I know we have some other dudes that are coming up that we're going to talk about that might be able to challenge you for your spot moving forward. But this is your World Cup. Treat it like that, okay? Channel your inner Tim Howard. Go out, be able to control play, really like be the guy, be the captain, be the leader, be the vocal leader of this team, because you have to be. You're the most important position in the field, on the pitch. Sorry, Ryan. Sorry. Get my terminology right. You are the most important on the pitch, in my personal opinion. Gio, is this your redemption story? I would love to see it. After everything that happened in 2022, what you did in those windows leading up to holidays and the new year, that was pretty cool to see. We've had some heated debates on this podcast about whether Gio Reyna deserves a spot or will even find himself in a position to make an impact in the 26 World Cup. This is your opportunity. These upcoming windows are your opportunity. I don't care how small the window is, make an impact, prove that this is your redemption story. I got one more for you, okay? I don't know if you want to add any more to this list, Ryan, but I just typed all this out. Chris Richards, can we shut down top-end countries? Okay, I know you're not alone, but shutting out Japan with their key guys out, cool, but that doesn't really impress me or anybody else. I will always give credit where it's due to this U.S. men's national team. If they win a game, they win a game. Good teams find a way to win. I don't care how it looks, okay? But you're not playing against the 20s, the 25s, the 30 pluses in the standings in the world anymore. We're playing against top 10 teams here, in top 15 and top 20, like real, truly competitive, could make a run teams in the World Cup. Can you anchor the defensive side of things and be able to shut down some of their best options leading up to the biggest tournament in American soccer history? Okay, so that's it. That's my list. All right. So I went through one by one. If you got any else to lead that you want to add to that, feel free.
I think this rant would have been very good in a couple months. I mean, some of these guys could not be on the roster. I mean, Reyna might not be on it. I mean, I like the passionate rant, but like, it's
like
January 30th. Like, there could be an injury with some of these players, and Pochettino mentioned that. I mean, I like that you tried to be Alexi Lalas real quick, but like, I mean, it's January 30th. We don't even.
Sorry, it's the red hair. I can't control it.
Playing together. And so I guess if we want to break things down, well, Pulisic is obviously the leader. First off, we got to make sure all these players get to the World Cup healthy and they're actually 100% fit. Reyna could not be on the roster. Just putting it out there. Starting, I guess, responding with Pulisic. I mean, yeah, he's the heart and soul of the team. But, I mean, if we're going to put all the expectations on him, I like it. And he's playing so well with a club team, but at the same time, we're going to see the same thing with the way we're going to see Dylan Larkin out here in the Olympics is the same way that Pulisic is really good players when there's great players around him, but when he has to lead, it's not quite that level, and that's just the way it is. And he's a captain, shouldn't be the captain. Let's see, Chris Richards. There's a lot of other things that go on in terms of trying to stop a team from scoring. It's one center back. There's still going to be two others. There's still the double
I know. I said he wasn't alone. I know. I said that.
Did you say Matt Freese is the most important player on the field?
Would you argue that the goalkeeper is arguably one of the most important positions on the pitch?
No, there's probably 3 or 4 players that are more important than a goalie.
You don't think a good goalkeeper would help you win games?
CDM is the most important. The midfield is the most important position group in all of soccer. Think of an offensive line. If that goes, everything goes. Center back is more important than a goalie, in my opinion. Goalie, sure. 3 or 4th? No, Matt Freese is not the most important. If we're looking at the USA, I would say Adams, to me, is the most important. I'd then go Pulisic. I would then go Chris Richards. I'd still go McKennie's more important, and then I finally get to Freese. Freese Free. This is going to be his only World Cup because the younger goalies are going to be way better coming 4 years. So he better make the most of this opportunity. But
Hmm.
no, I would not say Matt Freese is the most important. Gio Reyna, we got to see if he even gets on the roster. Is it a redemption story? Well, he seems to always show up for the men's national team, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But redemption, I would like to say that, but he's got to get on the roster first. Weston McKennie, uh, I would say you talked about his skill set. He's not going to play striker. We talked about that earlier in the week. He's not playing striker. I would say, can he just have some cohesiveness with Tyler Adams? We know that he can do that and just control the midfield as best as he can. But the thing is that midfield is going to be outnumbered in just about every single game unless you were to push in one of the other outside backs. But no, Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams are most likely going to be outnumbered in just about every single game. I like the passionate rant, but I think we're a couple months away.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. We'll cut to break here on hour one of Inside the Game. We'll be right back. Talk a little bit about the AFCON final. We have some news on that front. But first, tell you a little bit about FC Bayern Summer Camps, proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering football excellence across North America. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels. FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city and start a promising soccer path. And right now, save $30 on registration by using promo code BayernNSN30. Again, that's BayernNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Learn more at FCBayernYouth.com. Welcome back in on Inside the Game, episode 219. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky. Ryan wanted to work this in really quickly. We're giving away some Salt Athletic bags. I know we've been talking about this all week. So those smell-proof cleat bags that we got. What's going on in the background there?
There's just one thing being fixed. We're getting there. We'll announce the Salt Athletic winners when we're doing the question of the day. So there's a couple entries, and if you want to win constantly, we'll let you know again, and we have it for the next 20 weeks. So make sure you drop us a follow on Instagram, tag someone, and comment hashtag NSN Salt Athletic giveaway.
So Morocco and Senegal, the AFCON final, and all the madness around that. Suspensions have actually been released. And they have finally released all of that. So lay us out, lay that story out for us, Ryan.
Yeah, so we'll start off with the Senegal fines. Of course, they're the actual winners in this whole thing. But their manager actually given a five game ban and a $100,000 fine, which, funny enough, the Senegal fans have started a GoFundMe to raise $100,000 to make sure that their manager doesn't have to pay much out of pocket, or the federation has to pay a ton out of pocket for this fine. The Senegal Soccer Federation was fined $300,000 because of fan misconduct. As you see the picture up there, as they were colliding with the police and all that fun stuff after the penalty was awarded to Morocco. Also, for some of the an additional $300,000 for conduct of the players and the staffs. Of course, they were then taken off the field after that PK. And $15,000 for all the players getting booked, yellow cards, red cards, all that fun stuff. And then Senegal players Chiek Ndiaye and Ismailia Sarr. Man, he was a legend at Watford. Both given 2-game suspensions. But that's the Senegal side, and then we'll wrap things up with the Morocco side here. Where'd it go? Oh, we'll bring it in. Just one quick second. But yeah, no, that's just Senegal. Where the heck did it go? Oh, anyway, here's the Morocco fines. Herkaf Hakimi is suspended a year from all African games for his behavior in the final. Salabari banned for 3 matches and $100,000 fine. And then the Morocco Federation fined $315,000, including punishment for players, staff, and fans. Also, this includes the ball boys for stealing towels. We saw that with all the goalies and going throughout the whole tournament. That's about $150,000 fine, is based on what I was reading for all that stuff. But yeah, no, everything seems to finally have reached a conclusion. Also, none of these suspensions for players or coaches actually will go into the World Cup. That has nothing to do with it. This is just strictly African matchups, whether that's friendlies or future AFCON games. But no, this has nothing to do with the World Cup, so you will 100% see Hakimi in the World Cup. He won't be suspended at all. None of these players will be suspended. None of these managers will be suspended. But this is just strictly African Cup of Nations suspensions.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say they came down pretty fair on both sides. Yeah, that was it seemed like there really wasn't. I mean, both sides were guilty of doing something, right? You got a whole team walk off the field for 20 minutes. You know, I saw some comments talking about that's kind of like a forfeit in a lot of ways, right? Like you not often do you walk off the field for 20 minutes and then walk back on.
Well, Mane
so
stayed on. So it's
fine. Okay. All right.
Mane stayed on.
Really? Okay. So I guess I didn't realize that if one person sticks on, then whatever. But yeah, between the fan misconduct and the towel thing, I know was ridiculous, and you know we had mentioned that was happening leading up to this matchup. Like that wasn't something that was new. That was something that was already being done. But I think the extent of it was really probably what caught a lot of people's eyes. You know, I mean, you got one guy trying to protect himself against 4 who are trying to steal this towel away, and he's really kind of helpless as to what to do. You know, he's just retreating, he's running around, he's doing everything he can. Yeah, and then obviously the crowd trying to storm the pitch, and it was a messy situation all around, and I think that's my biggest takeaway from all this, and even the fan misconduct too. But I mean, you can't really do much about that. You know, fans are going to be fans, and it is what it is. It's just part of what we deal with. You talked about it means more. It means a lot over there. But I don't really think that there was just one side or the other. You know, I think it got a little ridiculous with the whole black magic claims. I don't obviously think that's a part of it. But,
just
you know, credit
because they lost.
Yeah, exactly. But credit where it's due, you know, coming down hard on both sides and just establishing that this is not going to happen. And yeah, suspended for a whole year that's big. That is that's a step right there. I mean, good for them. It's not going to affect, you know, these 2 sides in the World Cup, but yeah, they came down with a certain sense of fairness. So, I think both sides certainly got at least what was coming to them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're right. I think both of these nations deserved all the penalties that they got, all the fines that they got, and I hope that they all get paid and all the suspensions get served, because I'm sure there'll be a couple of appeals, just like everything in sports. Whenever there's a punishment dished out, there's always some sort of appeal, whether that's college, whether that's pro, whatever it is, even high school. I'm sure there's examples of it. But no, it was a horrible situation to see what truly went down in it, where you had the disallowed PK or disallowed goal, off the corner that should not have been a disallowed goal, and then you see the PK that gets awarded to Morocco, and then all hell breaks loose. I mean, I think we were in like 20, 25 minutes of stoppage time at that point, but then they miss the PK, everything goes crazy. Then we have Morocco trying to appeal stuff to FIFA, trying to strip it. But no, the reason that there wasn't a forfeit is because Mane stayed on the field, and you can actually, if every single player goes and celebrates with each other off the field, you technically the other team could restart the game if they really wanted to without the other players coming back on the field, so you could have a free goal. That's why you never see the goalies celebrate with anyone because they're still on the field. Since Mane was
Yeah.
still on the field, it's technically not a forfeit. That's just the rules. I mean, I don't know
Yep.
why Morocco thinks that there's a they think that it's a forfeit. So no, it's just a sticky situation. That's glad it finally gets resolved. Hope it doesn't happen again in the future, because I knew a lot of people actually thought that, the way that this game was handled, with based on teams walking off the field and coming back and ultimately winning the game, and then seeing Morocco try to take the towels of the goalies, a lot of people actually kind of thought that this could carry over in professional games and carry over in the World Cup. So I'm glad that the CAF was able to nip this in the butt. So all these teams, countries, clubs, whatever, know that there's some punishment if you act this way. So I'm glad that this gets nipped in the butt. We won't hopefully we won't have to see this again in the future. But if it does happen, everyone knows that there will be some sort of punishment dished out.
Yeah, they took ownership of it, and I mean, I think that's the biggest thing you're looking for, is just the willingness to own up to it and come down fair on both sides. But I think, as you mentioned, the most important part is that it's this isn't going to have some sort of long lasting effect on the World Cup and everything else moving forward. So that's the most important part in my mind, because you don't want to handicap a national side going into the World Cup. With it only coming around once every 4 years, and obviously how much it means, to both sides. You get into these AFCON rivalries. It's not the first time these two have played each other. I mean, there's a long history here. So sometimes the antics happen, and there's a little bit more leeway. I've always noticed, especially in like rivalry games or high end like championship games against like division rivals. Like, you're gonna let a little bit more go. But that was the whole thing. Was it went above and beyond, between the crowd and the towel and everything else that happened in and around that matchup is just a little too much. I know it means more, but I think even the league realized, like, okay, this is bad. Like, we can't set a precedent that this is allowed to happen at future matches. So yeah, keep it in the league, keep it in house. You don't have to let it affect these national teams and handicap teams going into the biggest tournament that there is in the sport. But certainly set the standard that's not acceptable, at least in that league at that level. So anyways, but yeah, a good job, fair coming down on both sides. But coming up next on Inside the Game, we're going to take a look at Mauricio Pochettino saying that there will be no more new players added, as you mentioned earlier, Ryan, to the mix of making the final roster for the U.S. men's national team. So anybody who really had a cap in this last year is on the hook. You said you put together a list of, was it 56 players that you have that all received
I just
caps?
searched it up and see who did a cap in the last year, and I got every single one, so we're good.
All right, so we'll just go through that list one by one and see where everyone falls on that. But we'll take a break and be right back here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Back live on Inside the Game, Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky, talking a little bit before we went to break about the AFCON final and the punishments surrounding that whole thing. But we're back on U.S. men's national team talking, and we opened up this first hour talking about the U.S. MNT and kind of the mentality coming into these windows before we hit the World Cup. But Mauricio Pochettino also saying the other day there will be no more new players added to the mix of players for the U.S. men's national team that we've already seen compete in these windows. Ryan actually went on himself and took a look at all the different players who have gotten a cap in the last year who will have an opportunity. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And, I know I had mentioned a few players earlier to open the show, but those are just really, it's just the kind of the collection of players that I feel like I'm going to be looking at the most, that I'm going to be focusing on myself a lot. And I think, when you look at the way that these guys have played with their club sides this year, and obviously for some of them, some injury issues and transfers and everything else along the line. But, I think we're building to a crescendo, and I think that's good to see. But Ryan, let's get into your list that you found online.
So I lost it for a second. Hold on. But no, I think it's a good idea that, he finally figures out who actually is going to be on this roster. I think this whole March camp will show us everything about who is going to truly be on this roster, because it's reported that he's going to make a thing or he's going to make his roster on March 17th for that March window against Portugal, Belgium, I think are the two. But no, it's good to finally see that it feels like he's finally shaping this roster, because when he came into this national team, Pochettino, it just seemed like a total mess. And it feels like he's kind of stabilized the ship. He steadied the ship, and he finally gets it done, and he'll figure things out. But starting off with the goalies, I think it's really simple who the three are going to be. And of course, this list, we're doing this on January 30th. The World Cup doesn't happen until June, and the announcement for the roster doesn't happen until late May. But I think the goalies are really simple. It's Schulte, Freese, and Turner. There's a couple others you could say. Zach Steffen, Sean Johnson's been in there. Ethan Horvath has been in there. But for being honest, I think the three goalies are very simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I think I've been impressed by Ethan Horvath. I think he's had some great moments in the past. But yeah, no, I would agree with that list too. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
All right, so let's look here. Defensively, I think these two are on the roster at this point. Again, we should rephrase it, are in the mix to make the roster. Obviously, we don't know. We're too far out to even say anything. But we'll just say in the mix. Arston, I think, is in the mix, and I think so is Alex Freeman.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Alex Freeman has certainly earned that spot, and I think Max Arfson is certainly on the list too.
I think this one he's not in the mix anymore just because of an injury. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers is out. I think ACL injury. He's too far behind the eight ball at this point.
Yeah.
He got injured back in September or October, sometime in the fall, and I think he's ultimately out of this mix.
Yeah, and our way too early projections. I mean, he was someone that I had on my list. He was someone that I actually thought would be a part of that starting 11 for the national team. But yeah, I mean, knees are tough to mess with, and his was obviously pretty bad. So I think, yeah, you're right. And I think fitness level, I just don't think he would be in a good spot, even if he was able to come back.
Mark McKenzie, I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know where I fall on him necessarily. I think probably out if I were to say anything, but certainly on the bubble. I mean, what says you?
I think it depends it's a battle between him and Miles Robinson at this point. I think I would give the nod to Miles Robinson, but McKenzie's 100% in the mix. Robinson missed the last World Cup because of a ACL injury against Mexico in the 2021 Gold Cup final. So I think Robinson is going to do everything he can in his power to make this World Cup roster. These three are set in stone. Tim Ream, Chris Richards, Jedi. No reason to talk about that.
Yeah.
Miles Robinson, I just said my point. What do you think on Robinson? He's definitely in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, if he was in the mix to make the 22 World Cup, then I imagine he's in the mix to make this one too. I mean, it's unfortunate he went down to injury and the timing of all that. But if you give me the two options, McKenzie or Miles Robinson, I probably am giving the nod to Miles Robinson, me personally.
Nathan Harriel, no way. These three are interesting. Joe Scally, John Tolkien, and Austin Trusty. I think if I were to take, because if we're looking at outside backs here, I think Arvston, or wing backs, I should say, Arvston, Freeman, Serginho Dest, obviously I haven't mentioned. He's in there as well. We'll say that he's on the, I think he's on the roster anyway, but he's certainly in the mix. But I think Freeman,
Yeah.
Arvston, Dest, Jedi are those, and I think there's only one spot out of those three, and I think that's between Scally, Tolkien, and Trusty. I think it goes to Scally. He's played a ton with Mach and Gladbach. He always got the short end of the stick when it came to Berhalter because the way that he was set up, it was always against Joe Scally. It was always we got to put him on an island against the team's best left winger. So I always felt bad for him, but he's always playing a ton with Mach and Gladbach. Tolkien, impressive window. When he played against Paraguay and Uruguay, impressive window, but I don't think he's done enough. Trusty, I could see potential on this kid. He scored yesterday in the Europa League, but I don't think he could be in the mix, but I don't see him making the roster.
Yeah, Joe Scally is one name that I feel like has continually come up in our kind of overseas overview conversations. And yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the way that, I mean, Greg Berhalter, I feel like had his guys. I feel like there wasn't much fluctuation in a lot of the teams that we saw in bigger tournaments, especially knockout tournaments, and even with the World Cup. Like I felt like we kind of knew right from the beginning. There wasn't as much in terms of question marks as what we've seen from Mauricio Pochettino. So, but Joe Scally has been a consistent name on our list. So, no, I like your breakdown there.
Tristan Blackman, MLS Player of the Year for Vancouver. I think he's 100% in the mix. I thought he was impressive in that Japan game, really, and he's been impressive all year round. Does he eventually make it into Miami? I think he could, but at the moment, no. But I think Tristan Blackman is 100% in the mix.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue he's probably on the roster. I don't think he's a starter, clearly, but I think in terms of valuable bench minutes in a position, late substitution where we need him, yeah, for sure, 100%.
George Campbell, no. Marlon Fossey, no. DeJuan Jones, no. But then there's my guy, Noah Kai Banks. Better be on this damn roster. Kid's a stud. And if I look at it, even if he guys. Again, he's my guy, so I got to put him on the starting roster. Do I think he starts? No, but at the same time, you got to look at Tim Ream. Those legs, I don't know if they're going to make it the whole time. So I would say Noah Kai Banks is going to be simply in a role to kind of just cover for Tim Ream.
Yeah, and I can certainly see that. No contest from me. I think Noah Kai Banks has proven his place and deserves a spot.
DeJuan Jones, no, but that wraps up defenders. Moving on to midfielders, we'll just say Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams are for sure on it anyway, so no reason to debate those two. But these two, right off the bat, Brendan Aronson, Diego Luna.
Brendan Aronson, yes, I think he's on the roster. Diego Luna, it's hard, right? Because you you like to see the passion, the fire, the energy. I know that y'all like to get up in my chest about my my love for Diego Luna. But you fall in love with the story. You fall in love with the player and the way that they carry themselves and conduct themselves. And obviously he was someone that we were really high on from a skill set perspective, though, when we put that one-on-one comparison, or you were talking about, who would Aronson trump in that position. It would be, if I'm taking him head to head right now, I would take Aronson. So that's not to say Diego Luna isn't in the mix. I think he's in the mix. I just think if I were to lean one way or the other, I would lean towards being out on the World Cup and not in on the World Cup, which is unfortunate because I like the kid. I think he's got a great story, but I think a move to Europe is where he needs to go. I think that needs to be the next step in his career path.
Look, Aronson gets the nod over Luna, in my opinion, and I thought the Gold Cup final told me everything about Diego Luna. Disappeared in the whole game. Didn't do much at all. And if I'm giving a spot to a player, he's in the mix for sure. But I think if I'm giving a spot here for Diego Luna, I'd rather see players who make an impact. I don't care who you are, but goals against Guatemala, Trinidad and Tobago don't move the needle for me at all. I get he was able to dominate against the smaller teams, the smaller countries, and that's fine. I mean, he's out there to do his job. You can only go out and play who you're supposed to play, and I get it.
Yeah.
Good story for sure. Hardworking player, 100%. But if I'm looking at Diego Luna, disappeared in big moments, and if I'm putting him out there in the World Cup, there's 10, 15 teams that are better than Mexico. And if we're trying to play, if we're trying to make a deep run here, especially in the knockout stage, Luna's going to have to show up in some big spots. And he didn't do it for me against Mexico. Coming off the bench, made a few things happen, but for the majority, just kind of just was quiet. So I can't really put Diego Luna over an Aronson. Aronson's been showing up so far, and he's dealt with a lot of stuff between the Leeds fans. So I think Aronson's over Luna at this point. Luna's 100% still in the mix. I don't think that, but if I had a decision between the two, Aronson 100%. Aiden Morris, Christian Roldan. Those two are interesting to me because I think Roldan's going to be on the roster just because of the most recent camps, and he hasn't played horrible in them, so I can't really say he's been bad. Aiden Morris is one that's always been floating around. I think both are in the mix, but if I had to give a nod to one or the other, I think it would be Roldan over Morris, but both of these two are 100% going to be in the mix.
I think Roldan, well, he's been starting in a lot of those games in the previous windows. So I mean, I would have to agree with you again on that one. I think Roldan gets the nod. I think he's looked impressive, and I think if there's been one player that I feel like a lot of fans of the U.S. men's national team have kind of pointed out and been like, really, like that guy's involved, is Roldan, and just how MLS heavy a lot of these windows have been, with him being in the front of that. But I think he's played well. I think he's been in good form, and I think he's obviously going to be in the mix. I don't know if he's going to start, but I mean, I think he's right there.
James Sands, no. I think Morris and Christian Roldan are both better than him, regardless. Tanner Tessman, he's an interesting one. I think he's a bench player, especially if Adams and McKennie maybe get in some caution trouble in terms of the bookings. I think he plays, and he started the last one against Uruguay, so I think he's 100% in the mix, and he's played well for his club. So I would say yes, Tessman's got to be in the mix.
I agree. I second that.
Malik Tillman, no doubts about that one. This one's interesting. Sebastian Berhalter.
No, I'm going to go with no on this one. No,
He ends up in a lot of these camps, though.
He does, and I've been impressed by him in stretches. He has, I don't know how many goals he's assisted on this past year, but I know he assisted on a couple in the Gold Cup, right? And then I think another one towards the end. I think one of those goals that Gio Reyna got, he assisted on. So it's looked okay, but no, I'm still leaning no for some reason. But I think the U.S. men's national team might find a way to put him on there just simply because of, you know.
I think he's in the mix. I think Berhalter's in the mix to make it still. He's showed up in every single window, I believe. I think he's been in every camp. So I know there's a little bit of continuity there. I know you want to keep a little bit of continuity if you're trying to build a roster like this.
Yeah.
Do I think he makes the roster? If he does, he's the 26th or 25th player. But I definitely feel like there's maybe a little nepotism in that one. Gio Reyna.
I think Gio's in the mix. I would like to imagine Gio's in the mix. I mean, after he played to close out 2025. So I would certainly hope he has a chance. But yeah, it's just the way I see it.
I think Reyna's in the mix. I think that last window where he looked really good, scored a goal, assisted in a game as well. I think that was Paraguay. I believe that he did that against Paraguay. I think that game and that window ultimately was do or die for Reyna in terms of if he sucked, I don't think he was ever going to get another callback. But he performed really, really well, and he's going to get it done. Or he got it done, excuse me, and I think he's now in the mix. If he didn't perform that way, I think it would have been he's heading home and not even going to be in the discussion in March, but I think he's 100% now in March. This one is always weird because he always, he's been playing in La Liga forever. Johnny Cardoso, but he doesn't seem to ever play for the U.S., so I just feel like he's not even in the mix. But I don't know. Like, he always is playing in La Liga, but never does anything for the U.S., never gets call up, so I would just say he's not coming at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would probably lean the same way on that. Yeah. I mean, circling back on the Geo point, no, I 100% agree with what you're saying. I just think, the truth is that he earned, as you said, earned the ability to get a call back with those last two games. But, everything obviously comes down to what we see moving forward, right? So can he continue that run of form? That's the biggest question with him. And I think Gio, that some of the drama around, transferring and teams and everything else outside of the U.S. men's national team, has that created a distraction for him too? Because it's just a lot of moving pieces when it comes to Gio Reyna. So all important questions, but certainly think he's in the mix. But no, I agree with you on that point.
I think Cardoso's out, simply doesn't play. These two are
Yeah.
pretty simple. Paxton Aronson, brother of Brandon Aronson, no. Quinn Sullivan, no. And then Brian Gutierrez, Luca Delatorre. I would say Luca Delatorre has to be in the mix. He just seems to be a player, but I don't see him ever. If he plays, I don't think if he makes it, I don't think he ever plays. Brian Gutierrez, probably
Yeah.
no. And then the rest of Sean's, I don't even know. I would say no. Caden Clark, probably no. Milhojevic, probably no. And Milevich, probably no. But I would say Luca Del Toro is probably in the mix out of that whole group. But those players don't move the needle for me at all.
Yeah, if anybody, it's him. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, I don't really see anybody on that group really making that big of a difference.
Forwards, the first three, real simple. Balogun, Pulisic, Weah, barring injury, they're on the list. Or they're in the mix.
Yeah.
This one's interesting. Alex Zendejas.
I would certainly say in the mix. I mean, he looked really solid in the stretches that we did play him. Obviously, we didn't see him as much, I feel like, in the later windows. But I would put him in there. I don't think he's a starter, but I would still put him in there.
I would agree. I think he's in the mix. If he makes it, I think you still would have an Aronson ahead of him, possibly out of the wing. I think you could have a Malik Tillman ahead of him. So I think he's like a second or third option off the bench. This one again. These two a little interesting. Actually, we do all these three at all. Haji Wright, Ricardo Pepi, Patrick Agyemang.
Pepi is interesting simply because of the injuries. I still think there's a fighting chance. Agyemang is interesting. You talk about disappearing in big time spots. Patrick Agyemang completely disappeared in a lot of spots this last year for the U.S. men's national team. I mean, there were stretches in which he just couldn't finish. And so I think if there was one player that the spotlight in a negative way was really being shined on, it was Agyemang, especially in the Gold Cup. So for Patrick Agyemang, he's a tricky one. So in the mix, sure. Again, leaning out more than in. Ricardo Pepi is interesting, again, simply because of the injuries. Can he get back into shape and then prove that he deserves a spot? Outside of that, I'm not sure. But at least when it comes to those two, that's kind of the way I'm looking at this.
Be looking at this, I would say Agyemang is probably the worst one out of the three that I named. I don't think he can dribble to save his life, to be quite honest with you. And again, I know he has scored recently in a couple of games over in the championship. So maybe he runs into a good stretch of form before June. Maybe he shows up in March, or before May, excuse me, and maybe shows up in March. But if I'm looking at it, I think Pepi, he's supposed to be out 2 months, so he's had a couple of weeks. So I would say it's not till another month and a half until he's really given a go. Which if he stays healthy, I think Pepi's 100% in. Haji Wright's another one. I think if I'm looking at a third string striker or a second string striker, I think Pepi and Wright are those two guys, and I think Haji Wright should 100% be in the mix. Scored against Australia in that friendly. But no, I think Haji Wright, Ricardo Pepi, and Agyemang. I think Wright and Pepi get in over Agyemang because you also got to think Fuller and Balogun is the other striker in that mix. So I think Agyemang is odd man out. Is he in the
Yeah.
mix? 100%. He's still in the mix because Haji Wright and Ricardo Pepi and might hit a bad run of form, maybe get injured, and it's still only January, about to enter February. This one's a little interesting as well. Damian Downs. He's played in a couple of camps, and is he in the mix? I think you have to see a couple of injuries before he even makes the roster. Is he in the mix? I think it's a slim chance he makes the roster, but is he in the mix? I think he's on the outside looking in terms of the whole mix.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I just think he has to have a couple of dominoes fall in front of him if he wants a chance.
Brian White, no. Griffin Yao, no. Interesting one. Josh Sargent.
No. I don't think so. No, with all the drama that's happening, and also like the way he started the club season, he was really off to a torrid start. So there was a belief that Josh Sargent could, if anything, maybe be our main striker. Maybe he would be in Flo's position, but it's teetered off quite a bit. And then obviously with all the drama surrounding him and club and moving back to Toronto, I still think he deserves a fighting chance. I'm not saying the kid doesn't deserve to prove a spot. Maybe he can surprise all of us. I mean, I'm open to the possibilities, but it just seems like a real messy situation with everything surrounding his club and everything else going on. So leaning out, but again, there's still room to prove a slot.
I would say for Sargent, if he didn't have the whole club kind of outline or this club distraction, I would say he's in over Ajiman. But I think this whole distraction and his whole family thing, I think I would imagine he's not in the right headspace. I can't say for sure or not because I don't know the person. But I would say no. I think Sargent, I think you mentioned all the points that I was going to say. I think everything is just a club distraction, and I think his focus is strictly on trying to get his family out of Norwich and back to North America because it seems like Toronto. But I mean, Rome is eventually going to play out, so we don't even know that part either. And maybe he just terminates his contract. Maybe he mutually parts ways. So there's that with Josh Sargent. But I think there's just too many distractions, and I can't say all these players are solely focused on the World Cup because I can't say that because it's so far away still, and all these players are in club season at the moment. So I can't say that or not, but I can say 99% of these players are focused solely on their play or trying to recover to get back to their full fitness. Sargent to me just seems like a player that is just solely focused on what's next and trying to get out of Norwich and get to the MLS. But that is all the players that could potentially be in the mix, out of the mix, on the roster, not in the roster for the World Cup. And I think it's great that Pochettino has said that, look, there's no new players coming in. He probably has, because there's 26 players. If I'm being honest, he's probably got 30, maybe 32, 33, 35 players that he's really thinking about bringing in, and it's just all about trimming down the next 10 players or so to be on the roster, really.
Yeah, and something tells me he already knows who his 11 is. Now it just comes down to, how do you fill out the rest of it? And I think, for obviously, we're not going to know who the official group is until the rosters are officially announced. That is, but I think we're really going to start to learn in these upcoming matchups, who is probably going to be in certain spots. As we said earlier, like
that's why March is so important.
The time for experimenting is done. It's over. And I know, yeah, I get that. I know we've been saying that for months, like we shouldn't be experimenting. We should know. But now I do really think that Mauricio Pochettino has a firm grasp on it. So to introduce any new players would just simply, in my mind, be a distraction. And if the list that you're already reading off of, a lot of those guys are on the outs, well, then you already have players, a group of players in that base that need to prove themselves. So I think he already knows, to be completely honest with you. We'll just see how it plays out with all the matchups leading up to it.
Yeah, no, I think that to say I think he has his full starting 11, I think that's a little too early to tell. I think he's got 8 or 7 because if I look at because obviously you and I both think that Jedi Robinson should be starting, but we haven't seen Jedi play for the USA in a long time. And I think that is a guy that he's got the quality. He's proven it in the Premier League. He's proven it with us, but who's been playing in his spots? And that's Max Arfston. Does Arfston play over Jedi? And I think a lot of USA fans would be pissed if you asked this question a year ago that Arfston could be starting over Anthony Robinson in the World Cup. People would be pissed about that. So I think that is a matchup. I think the wingbacks are interesting as well. To think of Tim Weah could play a right wing back. To think Serginho Dest could be playing right wing back. And then I also think is who's the center back to the right of Chris Richards. I think Tim Ream is going to be on the left because you can allow that cover in the left wing back and one of the pivots can allow that cover for Tim Ream. But who's going to be on the right? Is that a Mark McKenzie? Is that a Miles Robinson? Is that a Tristan Blackman? So I think he's close to his 11, but ultimately I think that it's like eight or so because there's a couple question marks around that back five or so, and I think also that right wing position, I think there's a couple question marks.
Yeah. So a lot to figure out for Mauricio Pochettino, but I'm just looking forward to seeing him get back and playing because I hate these long breaks where we have to just keep talking about who's who and who's what. I just want to see him play, especially against some top end sides too. So I think that's the. Obviously the annoying part is, when leading up to all this, even in the Gold Cup, it's like it feels like it's set up for American success, right? So the teams that they're going to play aren't. You would, right, you would think so. But the teams that they're going to play are not world powers. But now we have a chance to see that. So let's take a break. When we get back for our second hour, we'll get into our all sports content here on the National Soccer Network. But again, we got summer camps coming your way this summer, talking about FC Barca Academy, proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the U.S., designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18. Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model. Same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30 or scan the QR code on your screen. That's fcbarcelona.us/camps.
In Barca camp, I see my son grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca camp.
In Barca camp, I see my son grown.
What's up? Welcome back in on Inside the Game. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky here on episode 219, getting into our all sports talk. Ryan, I know I sent you a post a few days ago. I don't know if it was a few days ago or I forget when it was. Yesterday. There we go. about dead rivalries in college football. And this is always an interesting topic whenever we talk about like the current landscape of college football. And I'm going to actually kind of go to bat for the current format, the way it is right now, a little bit later on, because I do think it's an interesting topic when you talk about the playoffs. But one of the things that we've seen kind of die off with the conferences going away from regional rivalries, like the Big Ten obviously being in the Midwest, it's not that way anymore. Now you got UCLA, you got USC, you got everybody else joining that. You got really conferences that are going away from the regional rivalries and instead are, different rivalries are forming, but in conferences that obviously do not look anything like they used to look like. And so that means that certain matchups, certain rivalries are not being played anymore. And this was a really interesting list that was released. Got it up in front of you right there. So we'll go through it. The number one in my mind, though, that's not even on that list is Michigan Notre Dame. I feel like that is when you talk about the historical implications, I know it has been dead, but I just feel like it's not right that they don't play each other every year. Because if you go way, way back in the history books, before Notre Dame started playing football, they actually had a few representatives from the University of Michigan that went down and taught Notre Dame the new game of American football. So literally the birth of that program started because of a partnership with the University of Michigan. So I just feel like, I don't know, for historical reasons, there's no reason in my mind that you can't carve out one non-con game to play Notre Dame.
There's a reason. Notre Dame wimped out of it.
That's true.
Brian Kelly and Brady Hoke were the coaches. But two, there's no in the current college football format, there's no reward for playing a tough non-conference game. There's no reward for it. So what's the point of scheduling Notre Dame if you're Michigan when you still have to play the Big Ten schedule? For Notre Dame, there's more reward because you could make that the hardest game on your schedule. You lose it, you still go 11-1 and make the playoff. It doesn't matter. Michigan, you still have Notre Dame. That means you play Notre Dame. You still have Ohio State. You could have either an Oregon and Indiana, maybe Penn State, Michigan State. You still have all these games, so it makes no sense for Michigan anymore. It makes zero sense, and that's why probably a lot of these rivalries are dead because there is no reason to schedule this. For instance, number one, or not number one, but the first one, Bedlam, Oklahoma State. They don't even play each other. They're not in the same conference anymore. They don't play each other. Whether that's Oklahoma State wimping out and didn't want to play them anymore, schedule them. But there is no reason for these schools to play each other. Simply outside of bragging rights, maybe it helps with recruiting. But if you lose this non-conference game, it screws you because if you're Oklahoma, you still have the gauntlet that is the SEC. And if you're Oklahoma State, you still might have to play a Texas Tech. You might have to play a BYU. You might have to play other Big 12 schools. So there is legitimately no reason to play some of these rivalries.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, you're right, and you're correct, and technically everything that you say is right. I'm just talking about just the nostalgia component of it. Of course you're going to want to schedule UNLV or freaking Prairie View A&M for your non-con because why wouldn't you? I mean, that's exactly. But of course you would want to, but it's just, again, these are the rivalries that historically speaking, just used to be some of the biggest ones in the country. Now, this one was always dominated by Oklahoma. I mean, if you look at the overall record, like it's not even close. But that wasn't really even that's not really the point of all this. The point of all of it is that, again, it's an in-state rivalry. I mean, it means a little bit more, much like Michigan State. Now, obviously, it's different because they're in the same conference, but it's one of those rivalries that the money in college football and with the way that conferences are now. It's just kind of it doesn't exist anymore.
The next one, Keg of Nails, Cincinnati, Louisville. Can't say I've ever watched this rivalry. Never played, but it's proximity, obviously. So there's that. But Louisville ACC, Cincinnati, Big 12. Big 12. But another dead rivalry.
Yeah, and one that I didn't even know. To be completely honest with you, I didn't know that was a rivalry. I didn't know that was a thing. But Yeah, proximity, and you're going to see a theme with a lot of these. Like that's where these rivalries come from. That's where they originate. That's where they start. Especially I think of the probably the closest example of that is Duke and North Carolina. You have Tobacco Road. That's what separates the two universities, and that's why that rivalry is as heated as it is. Unfortunately, that rivalry has lasted the test of time. Now, I don't know if it's always going to be that way, but at the very least, it has stayed that way for the meantime.
Didn't know this was even a rivalry. Civil conflict. UConn, UCF. I don't know how. We'll just skip over that one. This one, again, this used to be pretty big. In the Big 12, one of them still in there, one's not. Missouri, Kansas, of course, they played this year. Missouri won, but the border war between these two. I actually worked with a kid that went to Missouri and worked in the athletic department. Worked for the Missouri football team. Now he's a senior, so he might not anymore. But he talked about the hatred that they had for Kansas down there. It is true. Of course, Missouri moved to the SEC a handful of years ago. Kansas still there, but obviously this rivalry, it's Kansas football. They're not very good, but there is a ton of hatred.
Yeah, and that's all that matters and all that. I mean, Kansas has had their good years recently, but I mean, generally speaking, yeah, they're not really a competitive team. I'm assuming Missouri probably has a comfortable lead in that series, historically speaking, but yeah, another one of them. I didn't really notice I didn't really realize the hatred between the two sides, but yeah, another one on that list.
This is another Notre Dame one that was ended this year. Notre Dame USC, and this one isn't because of college football alignment. That has nothing to do with it. This is just simply Notre Dame doesn't want to play USC anymore.
They have a bad track record with this, don't they? Don't want to play Michigan. Don't want to play Michigan State. Now they're not playing USC.
They
and
kept
this
Purdue.
one, okay, well, yeah, and they kept Navy too, just
Wow.
just cause, yeah, right. Don't play Navy in week 10, and then the people at the college football committee will look at it and go, yeah, you know what, maybe we can put these guys in. I don't know, just an idea, but this is where it starts to kind of shift for me. Missouri and Kansas, whatever. Okay, that one's not included anymore. It doesn't really make a difference to me. But if I were to rank my top 5 college football rivalries, in every single top 5, USC and Notre Dame is right in that mix, in my opinion. Between obviously the history of both of the two sides being up there in terms of national championships, Heisman's, NFL players that have been produced, USC and Notre Dame are, historically speaking, 2 top 5 programs in college football history. So the fact that they're not meeting on a routine basis or at the end of the year, I think that one even bigger maybe than Michigan and Notre Dame. I think is Notre Dame and USC. I would argue. So and just the difference between USC, West Coast, Notre Dame, Midwest, snow and toughness and blue collar, and then USC, obviously you have California, who's just they've so that is the one that just doesn't sit well with me that they didn't play that.
There is obviously I was swiping through and there's still Michigan Notre Dame. So there's another Notre Dame one on there, but if I'm being completely honest with Notre Dame, I hated Brian Kelly, so I never liked Notre Dame, and that was simply because of the coach. Now Marcus Freeman showed up, and I was like, "Hey, I mean, young, energetic guy. Let's see what he can do." And then he loses to Marshall at home, and eventually loses to Northern Illinois, and all that fun stuff. But this year just really made me lose a ton of respect for Marcus Freeman and the whole Notre Dame football program. I mean, you make a whole documentary about your season, and then you show all this stuff after it happened, after you get snubbed by Miami, who ultimately goes to the national championship game and loses, and then we have the whole. Well, I was really proud that my captains came over to my house and just told me they didn't want to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Maybe there was a player on that Notre Dame football team that didn't have a shot at the NFL and maybe wanted to just play one last time the game of football, the game that he loved. You took that away from him. So thanks, Mark. Good job, Marcus. And now we have this rule where if you're in the top 12 of the rankings, Notre Dame's automatically in. And then you tell USC you don't want to play him, and Lincoln Riley sitting there, the USC head coach, and is like, well, yeah, we'd play them anytime, anywhere, but they don't want to. So it's like
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame are just creating this whole like little border, this little soft border around South Bend of like you can't play if you're good. We can't play you.
Yeah.
Oh, we need this extra rule. Oh, you want to sit out a little bit? We don't want to play in this popular role because we don't want to be there. Like it's just this whole sense of entitlement with Notre Dame, and it's really just pissed me off. And that's another example this year. This one,
Yeah.
It was probably a rivalry when Harbaugh was the coach, but nerds versus hippies, Stanford, Oregon. I take it that was only. I take it that was just a rivalry because Harbaugh was there, and Harbaugh had a couple years where
That's
he was
funny.
really competing on the national stage with Stanford. I
Yeah.
mean, David Shaw had a couple good years with Christian McCaffrey, but I mean, that was probably the reason. I think the reason that thing's dead is because Stanford sucks.
Yeah, well, and also, you think of Pac-12, right? So this is just another one of those where it's like no one knows, Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a couple of other ones out there, but it wasn't one that I was necessarily paying attention to. But anyways, yeah, you're right. Jim Harbaugh had a few good years there. Oregon historically has been very good. They just can't find a way to get over the hump and actually win a national championship, but they've had some really good teams. And so I can imagine where the trees and the ducks probably clashed a few times. I wanted to circle back on the Notre Dame point, by the way, just very quickly and tell you, yes, you're 100% correct. I can't believe that we're making exceptions for Notre Dame because they refuse to join a conference. And now you're right. So long as you schedule a cupcake season, you can just get into the top 12 and you're automatically into the playoffs. I mean, I know I made the argument about top 12 teams get in, like, having like Tulane in the playoffs is maybe a little overkill, but yeah, goodness. Yeah, that is Notre Dame is they continue to find a way to annoy all of us.
Yeah, they don't make sense. Backyard brawl, West Virginia Pitt. There's some true hatred in that one.
Yeah. That is one that, again, that's another one of those where it's like it really doesn't matter like records and where you are in your season and anything. Like so I have a close friend that did not go to West Virginia. He went to Cornerstone University, but a lot of his friends ended up going to West Virginia. And so he would go down on the weekends, and anytime he came back, he always talked about how there's just the vitriol for Pitt at West Virginia is something that really should be studied by science. I mean, even ask Pat McAfee. Like it is a different level of hatred for that school. I mean, it's built into all of their chants in the stadium. Even when they're not playing Pitt, they're still chanting about Pitt. So that's one of those where, again, regardless, because those aren't really two perennial contenders in terms of football programs. Like, yeah, they've had their years. Marshawn Lynch at West Virginia, and even the Rich Rod years when he was at West
Marshawn
Virginia.
Lynch went to Cal.
Or Cal, my bad. Who was I?
Geno Smith went to West Virginia.
Geno
Tavon
Smith
Austin went to West Virginia.
Tavon Austin. I don't know. One of those probably I was thinking of. But no, yeah, the video of him driving around in the cart was funny. That always lives in my head.
Or no, he did that after the fact. Never mind.
Yeah,
when he returned back, he did it with his mom.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that just there's a level of hate in that rivalry that it's a tough one to see go.
Yeah, and let's also, again, the current college day did not ruin that one. West Virginia moved to the Big 12 a long time ago.
Yeah.
I guess you could make the case for a couple Nebraska ones, but this one, Oklahoma, Nebraska. Again, this is another one that's kind of feels like a West Virginia thing because Nebraska moved to the Big 10 around the same time as West Virginia moved to the Big 12. But again, so some of these are not due to current conference realignment. Some of these have happened a long time ago, and this is another one.
Well, and also important to keep in mind, Nebraska used to be a perennial contender too. Like, you have to go back a few years, but like
Tommy Frazier.
Like yeah, exactly. Like Nebraska used to be really good, and Oklahoma historically has always been very good. So yeah, I mean that plus the two sides used to be kind of on the same level, and that does make rivalries more interesting. I know we're going to talk about Michigan State coming up here a little bit later, the lowest combined ranking between the two sides in program history. So that is going to make tonight really exciting, and it makes every rivalry more exciting. I think in 2021 was it 21 Michigan State, the K9s year? Yeah, football. Yeah. Yep. So that brought it to a new level that year. So that also adds to it, but again, mostly because of conferences, the reason why those two aren't playing anymore.
Yeah, also Eric Crouch, another Heisman quarterback from Nebraska. I had a chance to interview him before. And then the war on I-4, UCF, USF. I didn't even know that thing ended. Seemed like that was a pretty. I've watched it a couple times, and it seemed pretty intense. I think any college football rivalry in Florida is kind of amped up a ton. I
Yeah.
think that is. I
Yep.
feel like that state alone has the best football riverries.
Yep.
Because like there's so many, like Miami, Florida State. Florida State. You could put Miami versus Florida, and then you have UCF, USF. I'm sure there's probably like some FAU rivalry with like FIU and FAU. Probably just the F's, the U's, and the vowels probably are what it is. But no, that's another one that is dead because UCF is the Big 12. Is the USF still the American? I've lost track.
I believe. I think so. I think
they're still in the American.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, and I mean to kind of double down on your point, like they all hate each other. Like all the different Florida programs, like absolutely despise one another. Like it doesn't matter who it is. Like I saw Florida fans doing victory laps when Indiana won the national championship, just because thank God Miami didn't win it. We didn't have to hear about how the U was back for the next 365 days, probably the rest of their lives. So no one in the country outside of Indiana fans were more excited for that national championship than Florida State, and everybody else in Florida who's not named Miami. So there is there's a certain level of hatred with all that. And even Florida State. I'm sure once upon a time you could put that up there as one of the top 5 rivalries in the country. It's hard to do that now. I mean, Mike Norvell has had some great years at Florida State, but they've fallen off. Florida just hasn't been Florida for probably a decade now, really, since Tebow was there. I mean, yeah, they've had some good years, but yeah, I mean, it's been rough sledding. So
2009, 2010, somewhere around there. I mean, Florida's had one good year, but the kid threw the LSU player's shoe and got kicked out of the playoff. Good job. I didn't even know this was a rivalry. TCU, SMU, the Iron Skillet. I didn't know that was a rivalry, but again, that's Texas. So I imagine.
What did you say? I didn't catch it. The
Skillet,
screen glitched out.
TCU, SMU. I didn't know it
Yeah,
was a rivalry.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, we can skip over that one. This one, we talked about in-state rivalries. The Civil War, Oregon State. Obviously, Oregon State still in the whatever's left for the Pac-12. Oregon, obviously, in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I mean that was one that when again it was the Pac-12, like it was every year, and Oregon State. They're one of those football programs where they're never really going to be all that great, but they always find a way to like pull off like a weird win every now and again over like a team that they have no business beating. And a lot of years is very entertaining. Oregon would be that team. And I talked about my best friend who's an Oregon fan. He just stressed out about that game more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, that was something that at least the state of Oregon was, it should be being played in my opinion. But again, they're not in the same conference. So why would you put yourself through that? But I also don't think Oregon has to really worry about Oregon State. Like, I feel like that's like an easy non-con game now, right? Like, I mean, I know how rivalries work. Like sometimes the other side just finds a way, but I don't know. It's kind of the way I view it.
Yeah, no, I know. I got you. And I think it's just great that all these college football rivalries, regardless of record, fans still get nervous. You can have an undefeated number 1 team going against a team that isn't even above 500, and that team above 500 upsets, and it goes crazy. This will be. We already talked about Michigan, Notre Dame, so we can go to the last one here. Pitt, Penn State.
Yeah, this one I think I did know about, but I mean, obviously Penn State, it's a cult down there. I mean, it is essentially.
Does Penn State have a true Big Ten rival though? Like, if we're being honest, like. They say they're rivals with Ohio State, but obviously Ohio State's got bigger rivals. They're just conference rivals. Yeah, like conference rivals with Michigan. Michigan State's in there, but they're not really. I don't know. Like Penn State's that weird team that like they're good, but they don't have a true rival within the conference. Like Michigan State. That's just me.
Yeah, Michigan State is who they play on rivalry week every year. So that is their rival. But I don't think anyone really
Michigan State doesn't
buys
hate
into
Penn
that.
State.
Yeah, I mean, it's just no. So I don't a true rival in the conference, no. So I think that's where maybe I don't know, maybe that's why they played Pitt every year once upon a time because that was their true rival, which I can see it. With Penn State is very Texas. I think they're Texas A&M light with the way that the people around that program treat that program. Like it is very much a cult.
Well, Pittsburgh.
But I mean,
Pittsburgh,
A&M's got the
Pennsylvania.
yell leaders, so I mean, A&M's they take weird to another level. But I think Penn State is sort of like that. So I could see where the in-state clashing of heads would certainly emerge. But that's our list.
Yep. Is
The
there
whole
one
list.
specifically that that was not on it?
None that I know of. For that, I was just the one that I said Michigan and Notre Dame earlier. But
I guess
you know.
maybe
about
Nebraska,
Harvard and Yale?
Colorado. Maybe. I mean, I always heard crazy things about that, but that was when they were in the
True.
what was it, like the Pac-10 or the Big Ten, or not the Big Ten, the Pac-10 or whatever it was? Because I know Nebraska and Colorado were in the same conference for a little bit, but
Yeah.
obviously they go to the Big Ten. Colorado went to the Pac-12, so
I think there are certain matchups too that will never go away. I don't think Michigan, Ohio State will ever go away. I think there would be a revolt from both sides if
Texas,
that were to be the
Oklahoma,
case.
Florida,
Texas,
Florida
Oklahoma
State.
never go away. Auburn, Alabama will
Nope.
never go away. Army, Navy obviously will never
America's
go
game.
away. There's no way. I know you talked about shifting that game around to better accommodate the playoffs, but they're never not gonna play that game. So they're USC, UCLA will always be so long as they're still in the same conference. So anyways, there will still be rivalries, but just interesting. You don't see as much in terms of the regional clashes like you used to. But let's take a break here on the National Soccer Network Inside the Game. One more camp to tell you about before we do so, though. Manchester City Soccer Camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy to players across the United States. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels, these camps focus on technical development, decision-making, and playing the game the City way. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code MCNSN30. Scan the QR code on your screens. Find a camp near you, usacamps.mancity.com. Back live here on Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. I'm Nate Wengler. That's Ryan Glinsky. As always, we appreciate you guys stopping by on the show. Make sure you give us a follow, National Soccer Network, wherever you find your social media. Talking about some dead rivalries here before we came back from break, but we'll get into what else we got here in our all sports content. Saw this video yesterday that I shared with you, Ryan, that I thought was really interesting. Brendan Walker's show, which as a Michigan fan and as a Big Ten guy and just as a Northerner in general, not really the biggest fan of Brandon Walker. I think he's a little arrogant. I think he's a Southern homer. I think he's a lot like Paul Feinbaum
Mississippi
in the
State
way
sucks.
Yeah, but he's a conference fan. He's not he doesn't really talk about Mississippi
That's all
State
the
a whole lot.
SEC though.
He's a conference fan. Yeah,
It's the
he
SEC,
rides Alabama and Georgia's coattails and talks about how great the SEC is. But anyways, moving on from that, the 12-team playoff, we've made a lot of judgments about the 12-team playoff. We talked about earlier, and I still stand by this. The at-large bids for the playoffs, I believe, is just simply a fantasy. I know that people are like, well, just wait for the year that it finally happens. Wait for the year that a Tulane or a James Madison or any one of these schools finally finds a way to break through. And SMU, for example, finds a way to win that first game or goes on a run toward the championship. I just simply don't believe, and again, maybe I'm alone on this, and I don't know what your opinion is, Ryan. I don't believe for a second that any of those teams actually stand a chance at going on and winning a championship, because the difference between Power 5 and the remainder of college football is massive. It is massive, and it makes a difference. And the difference between basketball and football, and we've always made jokes about this, is that in basketball, if you can shoot, you have a chance to win, right? Oakland can actually go beat Kentucky for one very realistic reason. They can hang
Jack
with them.
Golke hits 13 threes.
Yes, because Jack Golke literally channels his inner primetime Golden State Warrior Steph Curry mode and just God mode and goes out and wins the game. If you can shoot, you can win in basketball. Well, we've seen massive upsets. Every year I feel like we see massive upsets. Sometimes we see D2 teams beat D1 teams. Sometimes we see sometimes we see NAIA programs go out and beat D2 teams. I mean, these are basketball. That's one of the greatest things about basketball, is that it truly anybody can win on any given day so long as you can shoot the basketball. In football, it's a different world. Okay, you're dealing with offensive and defensive lines who are separated by 40, 50 pounds. You have a quarterback on one end who can throw it, 60 yards on a dime, and you have a quarterback on the other side who can't do all that. You have better skill position players. You have better special team players. Everybody all around on the field is on one level versus the other. And so because of this, football is just a different beast. It is a different beast. And it's why these massive upsets that we've seen throughout the course of history, there's like a handful of them, but you don't see a list of them the way that you see in basketball and other sports. So I think it's a fantasy to have some of those at-large bids in there. But I'll say this, and this was the point that Brandon Walker was getting at. When people want to make the statement that the way that it is now has ruined college football, the format that we have for the playoffs and everything else, it's ruined the game. In my opinion, Ryan, it has ruined nothing. And as much as I would like to critique or maybe criticize the way that it looks, especially with the exceptions to Notre Dame, and also just adding more games for more money when you realize that it's going to be a blowout anyways, I will take all of that over what college football used to be, over the system of we just have a group of guys who just kind of decide based on resume who the national champion is. But we didn't have a national championship game until I think I was born before they decided to have 1998.
Is the last split.
So in my lifetime is when they decided to actually have a game to decide a national champion, right? So I need you to picture that for a moment, right? You go out and you win every single game that you play on your schedule. Or maybe you win all but one. You dominate in your bowl game. But if your name isn't Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama, or any of those other big prestigious programs that have a similar record, you are not going to be named a national champion. If we were going by that standard in college football this year, Miami wouldn't have been a national champion. Indiana, maybe because they won all their games, I'm sure they probably would have been crowned, but then you would have factored in everything else around, well, it's Indiana. Like, can we just name Indiana a national champion? Like, this is the first time that they've ever actually been at this level, better than 500. So that alone in selecting a national champion is just so bizarre to me. And I think of all the teams that probably would have had a chance to go win a championship, but didn't. And then you get into, obviously, the computers deciding who the national champion is and running it through the algorithm, and it just kind of spits out a team. I mean, that would be the equivalent of just asking AI,
but that
like,
hasn't
hey,
happened for 10, 15 years.
no, I understand.
no
No,
one-
I'm
no one-
comparing it to our current format.
The current format is not the issue. It's the scheduling that's the issue. The fact
Oh, yeah.
that
Well,
the fact that certain 4 teams have to wait over a month to play when 8 teams have to play before that's the issue. The issue is
Yep.
you're describing things that haven't happened for 15 years. You're describing stuff that hasn't happened for 20 years if we're talking about before that. That the issue is not how the national champion is decided. The issue is the scheduling. That is the sole issue. And other college football fans, what their issue is the fact that the regular season does not matter as much as what it used to be. That's also another issue because I thought the 4-team playoff was fine. I genuinely thought it was but
Yeah.
now you can't go on. You can lose 2 games and still ultimately win a national championship. You also can't. Also, when you're saying at large can't win national championships, Ohio State won a national championship as an at large. But I get what you're saying. The mid majors can't win a national championship. So I get what you're saying on that. But an at large has won a national championship. Check Ohio State. But but the thing is though is you have to throw a mid major in there. You have to because what's the point of them playing? If you're a mid major and you still go 12-0, beat everybody by 30+ points, and you're not thrown in there because you're a mid-major, then there's no point of playing the game if you're a mid-major football program. Then you might as well have your own tournament. You might as well have your own playoff format if that's the case. Have an NIT. But the issue is not is not the system. The issue is the scheduling. And I've broken down what the schedule should be. I've broken that down. You should not, if you're going to have conference championship week, then you can't have Army-Navy week by itself. Either Army-Navy starts off the college football playoff or they play on that week, the conference championship week. That's simply what it is because you have to get those 4 teams. The top 4 teams that have buys are 1-7 so far in the opening 2 years. That's the issue. So what my solution is you play the obviously you keep the 12, you have week 0, you play Thanksgiving weekend, the rivalry weekend, that's fine. But if you have that conference championship weekend the next week, well then that next week that can't be Army-Navy week by itself. You must play that opening round on college campuses. That's absolutely where you have to go. You have to go from there because then the next week before Christmas, you then get to play the where the bye teams plays, which would be the quarterfinals. You would then play that, and then you get to the New Year's 6 games, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whatever. Then you play the semis. Then the week later, you then play the national championship. The issue is not how it's decided. The issue is the scheduling in which it is. I don't care if I think it's great that we have games that decide who's a national championship. The computer system where we didn't even have a game, but that hasn't happened for 15 years, 25 years even, really, if we talk about not even having a game. It's just the scheduling that's the issue.
Yeah, I guess the whole point of why I was bringing it up was to compare it to what we used to have. That was the whole point of what I was trying to get
And
at.
it's fine the way it is now. It's just a schedule.
Yeah. Right. No, it certainly has its own issues, and obviously the point of the national or the regular season meaningless. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I would even argue, Michigan, Ohio State does not mean nearly as much as what it used to.
2024.
I mean, if both teams get there undefeated, or if both teams get there comfortably in the top 10 or in the top 5, the winning or losing that game does not really decide where you go from there. You can lose it and still have a chance to go win a national championship, as we saw with the matchup Michigan Ohio State just last year. So that's the part I think that maybe sometimes doesn't sit well with people. And then obviously you see the interviews afterwards or people asking the question, would you rather win that game or would you rather win a national championship? And that's just such a crazy thing in my mind because, the answer to that was always like both. Obviously you want to beat Michigan and you want to win a national championship. But I even think maybe not that long ago, Ohio State fans, I'm sure a good portion of them probably would have still told you we want to beat Michigan because that's just how much the game used to mean. And if you didn't win that game, you didn't have a chance to go play in a national championship. But now all that's completely changed. So that's, you're 100% right. The regular season does mean less. But also how much does it mean if you were dealing with forces around you that wouldn't even allow you to compete for a national championship once upon a time? So no, the whole reason why I brought it up wasn't to necessarily talk about the scheduling or what needs to be changed about the 12-team playoff. It was to compare it to what we used to have. And so to caution people against being like, well, it's ruined college football. It didn't used to be this way. I don't know how you could make that claim because the way it used to be wasn't a fair format or a fair way of going about it at all. I mean, big brands got their way. They got the benefit of the doubt. They typically got the nod in big situations. So I'll still take the 12-14 team playoff. We could do a March Madness if we want style format. It really doesn't bother me at all. At the very least, we're actually deciding a champion based off of how they perform in a playoff format, which I think in any other league in the world is the case. I don't know why it took college football so long to catch up. So that was the main thesis, if you will, around kind of bringing that topic up, because I think that's what Brendan Walker was trying to explain on his show, or at least get into from the clip that I was watching.
Yeah, no, I get it, but we haven't had a lot of, some people don't even recall the BCS. They only remember the 4-team playoff. So it hasn't happened for 15 years. I get what you're saying, but the 12-team format is not the issue. It's a fine format if you include all four rather. It's not the Power 5 anymore, it's Power 4. But if you include all four champions, I think all four. I think you should have it like March Madness. You should have all four automatic qualifiers, which means Duke would have gotten in this year. If you're going to win the conference, you have to have some reason to even want to win your conference. There should be a reward for that, and you have to give a group of 5 team the nod. You have to, because they can't even play anything. Or if you don't want to do that, you got to create an NIT for them. Then that's the only solution, because there's no point of playing it then if you can't, because we talked about basketball. Obviously, you can have some reward because you automatically qualify for March Madness. But if that's the case, if we're not going to put them in, then you have to create something for themselves, because there's no reason to play. But then the at-larges, so if we include that, that means you have to have 6 at-larges. I mean, it's fine because you're still getting great games. Should James Madison and Tulane both been in? No. Maybe, I think Tulane was probably the 11 seed. So I guess Tulane should have gotten the last spot. But no, you have to give those smaller schools a little bit of nod. I mean, Cincinnati back in 2021, it was a close game with Alabama for a while that ultimately lost in the national championship game to Georgia. So no, there's definitely some instances where a group of 5 team has helped, or has at least competed against a Power 4 school. But no, I think the format's fine. It's just the whole scheduling issue. That's the issue with all of this. And I love the Army-Navy game. I 100% do. But they can't have their own week anymore. And if you want to do that, then make it in week 0. Make that their own week then. But you can't have it after the conference championships. Or what you could do is you could play them on conference championship weekend, but you have to then move up the Big Ten championship game up a spot. We know the Big 12 is already moving from their noon spot to Friday, so let's move the SEC to noon. Let's move the Big 10 to 3:30, and Army-Navy has the primetime spot. But they can't have their own week anymore. They just can't. Yeah,
that's fair. Taking our last break here on the National Soccer Network Inside the Game. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about Michigan State, their matchup here tonight, one of the most anticipated, I would argue, in program history. Lowest, again, as we talked about, combined ranking these two teams have met up in school history. And we're also going to get to question of the day. That's coming up next here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Back live here on Inside the Game. Final segment here before we get to question of the day. Michigan and Michigan State, the big one coming up tonight. I've already gotten a few go greens since I woke up. So responded promptly with go blues. But Ryan, what are you looking forward to the most with this matchup?
I would say I just hope Michigan, I hope this Dusty May regime, I hope this Michigan basketball team understands it. That's my big takeaway. And listening to some interviews with Nimari Burnett yesterday and Roddy Gale, obviously both those two have been there. Nimari Burnett has been there for a couple of years now. He got there under Jawan, which I think ultimately should give you any extra year of eligibility if you played under Jawan Howard. I genuinely believe that. He sucked.
Yep.
But no, but all jokes aside, and they both of those two talked about it, and they said that because they're reminding their teammates how intense it is. They are reminding their teammates what it's like to play in this. And obviously, I hate all this BS right now from MSU fans talking about bought versus developed. Look, I don't know what you want Dusty May to do at this point. He had to gut a whole roster that was 8-24. Like, there was nobody good on that roster outside of Nimari Burnett and Will Cheddar. That's who he kept. That's the guys he wanted to keep. I'm sorry, but Yo-Yo ain't going to do anything. Doug McDaniel's not going to do anything. He doesn't even do his homework and all that fun stuff. Terrace Reed has done some good things with UConn, but I'm sure he just wanted out anyway. It's just a full-on mess. Oh, Trey Jackson and Conway. Man, they suck. But anyway, I don't think they understood it last year because of all these different guys. Yeah. The only players that understood it was Will Cheddar and Nimari Burnett. Those were the only two. Now I look at this current team, and they lost both games last year. They've been to the Breslin before. And if I'm looking at it, Elliot Cadeau, 4 of the 5 starters have not played in this rivalry before. You could say Mara has when he played at UCLA, but it's UCLA, Michigan State, not the same thing. So Mara has not played in it. Yaxel has not played in it. Cadeau has not played in it. Morez Johnson, obviously, he's played at Illinois, and he understands how good Michigan State is and how tough of an environment, but he's never been on the Michigan side of things. So I all I would say is from the Michigan perspective is I just hope they understand it. I hope the coaches understand it, and I hope that leading up to this game, they just played a tough game against Nebraska, and I just hope that this group has eventually been told how intense this game is, what it truly means to walk into the Breslin Center, and everything that you're going to see, all the extracurriculars. And they got a little taste of it with Ohio State, and hearing the interview with Yaxel Lindeborg during Vegas, and Jalen Rose asked him, "Do you understand that this football game that's going on Saturday, that being Michigan Ohio State?" He's like, "Yeah, I heard about it, but I don't quite understand it yet." So my thing is all these Michigan State players understand it, but do these Michigan players understand it? And ultimately, I think that could be the difference.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree, and also just respecting how much it means to MSU. Dusty May understands the business of college basketball, I think, better than a lot of coaches do, and I think that was intentional for Michigan to go with him because I think they understood that he understood coming from a younger perspective, but also realizing like it is winning is really it is the business now. And finding players that can win for you now is the business. And we had the same talking point about Kyle Whittingham. Like he's brand new to this side of things. I mean, he's played against Michigan before, but didn't really understand the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. And the same thing is with players that are just kind of coming in and are filling out a spot and obviously are going out and winning, but haven't been here. And so therefore maybe don't necessarily grasp the gravity of this matchup because you're right. Beating Michigan is everything at Michigan State. It is what makes them get up in the morning. It's what drives them every single day. I'm serious, and this isn't even coming from a condescending point of view. This is just I'm just being honest.
No,
Beating
right.
Michigan
I just
is
find
everything.
I just find
it is
funny.
Everything.
That's all.
Yeah,
I agree.
It is everything, and so and especially when it comes to basketball. They can make an excuse for football. They can make an excuse for hockey, whatever, But basketball is where beating Michigan is the be-all, end-all. Obviously, they want to win a national championship. They want to go to Final Fours, whatever it is. But there's a different level to this matchup because of just the vitriol that just exists in the hearts of Michigan State fans when it comes to the University of Michigan. I don't know if it's an inferiority complex. I don't know what it is. It could be a combination of things. Little brother, I think, is the simplification of it, if you want to really look at it that way. But that's exactly it. And each and every single one of those players at Michigan State understand that what this rivalry is, the gravity of this rivalry, and how much it means to not only the alums but the school and the students and everybody in that community that they beat Michigan and specifically that they beat them at home. So yeah, it is. It's tough, and I think there's a combo of that. It's good to know, but it's good to also not overthink it too. I love the line from Curt Cignetti in the football playoffs, like about Alabama. Like the reporters know a lot more about the history of Alabama than the players do. The only thing that they know is what they've seen on film. So I also don't mind the other side of that. Like, hey, treat this like a business trip. You know what job you have to do. Go out, play to the best of your abilities. But there's always going to be an emotional component, especially in basketball, because it is so much a game of runs. It's a game of momentum, and especially when you have the crowd behind you. I mean, really anything can happen. So yeah, this is going to be a true test. Obviously, it's not a catastrophic end of the season if they don't win this game. They're still going to be very good. They're still going to be in contention, but this is one of those that it can change the season either for better or for worse, depending on how you go out and play. So it is it's my favorite, man. My favorite matchup every year.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But I mean, the last couple of years it hasn't been good, and I mean, I hate this whole flex of. I mean, Jawan's the coach. Do people not realize that? Like, Jawan was the coach for the last couple of years. No wonder Michigan State's been dominant. Like, it's just some Spartans don't have it in the context. But no, it's a very important game. I mean, it's not the end of the season. It's college basketball. They'll still play one more time back at the Chrysler Center, and maybe they'll play in the Big Ten tournament. And then obviously you still have the NCAA tournament. All I'll say is this: last year, I felt like Michigan came out flat in both games. I thought they were careless with the ball. I felt like they looked scared. They looked a little timid being there, especially at the Breslin Center. So all I would say, and also if you're LJ Kaysen, you're gonna receive a lot of boos. You're gonna receive a ton based off last year, which was planned, by the way. I can confirm that. And my suspicion was correct, but I can confirm that.
Yeah.
Shout out CMU GOAT Fat Brooks playing Bowling Green this weekend. But no, it's just that I just hope Michigan just comes out not scared and timid, because Michigan, like that's the issue that I still think I have a little bit with Kyle Whittingham that you mentioned
Yep.
is that first Ohio State game. Do they truly understand? Because Jonathan Smith even said his first year when they played at the Big House, he goes, I didn't understand it at all. And that's just the thing that worries me a little bit. That's why I gave the edge to Michigan State, and that's why I think Michigan State wins tonight. That's the reason why. Not that I think Michigan State's the more talented team, not that I think that Michigan's not the more talented. I think overall Michigan's a better basketball team than Michigan State. I think 100%. But the difference is the crowd, the intensity. I think Michigan State, everyone understands it. Michigan, I don't think they're there yet. And that's the only thing that gives me. And that's why I think if I were to give a prediction right now, I think Michigan State wins this game. That's just my prediction.
It's fair. Let's get to question of the day.
You got to give a prediction. Come on now.
Oh yeah, final prediction. You know what? I know I've been agreeing with you a lot on this show. I think it is going to be a close one. I think Sparty will pull it out at the end. And I think that this will be one of those matchups, one of those games that kind of really kicks this Michigan team into overdrive, because we know that from an overall talent perspective and just a grittiness and an ability to win games. We saw that against Nebraska, and how they didn't lead until the very end of that game, literally inside the last minute that they
Not
led.
a charge, by the way. All you Nebraska fans have been crying in my comment section. Not a charge. Hoiberg was shuffling his feet.
It is true. But I think they've shown a lot of that, but I think this is a close loss, and then I think it's something that, again, I think kicks this team into a different level than what they're already at, which, I mean, to see that the things that they've done already this season are already impressive in and of itself. But I think this is a big moment for them, but I think they come up short, but ultimately I think it's a good thing for them at the end of the day.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I like it being at Breslin first, because in the Chrysler Center, they'll understand it, they'll get that intensity, and they'll have it at home. But no, question of the day. It's gonna be a little bit longer because we do have the giveaway to get to. But first, Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off that #1 smell-proof cleat bag. Where is it? Right here. Right here. 100% works. I should be using it for my basketball shoes, to be quite honest with you, but I haven't. I'm not very smart. Maybe I'll ask Sean if I can take one home. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit saltathletic.com today. But of course, you can win a free bag. A free bag courtesy of us here at the National Soccer Network. All you have to do, head to our Instagram, NatSoccerTV. Follow us on Instagram, tag a friend under the Salt Athletic post, and comment hashtag NSN Salt Giveaway. You'll be entered to win it every single week. We have 21 bags for the next 21 weeks. We will be announcing it every week on the show. But let's go ahead with our first contestant. Our first role here, we have Jennifer Krott, Christina Bala, and Ineldo. So let's see who wins our first ever Salt Athletic giveaway, and it's going to be Christina Bala. You are our winner for week 1 of the Salt Athletic giveaway.
Yeah.
There you go. You'll get a horn for yourself. We will send you a DM on Instagram to get your address, and we will ship it completely free to you. So congratulations to Christina. But now let's get into question of the day. Again, this will happen every Friday for the next 20 weeks. I don't even know how far that'll go down the list, but for the next 20 weeks. But question of the day, how long do you think you could survive a zombie apocalypse?
You know what? I don't know. I think I would survive the zombie apocalypse. I think I would survive to the end, to be completely honest with you.
You got a good jump start on it.
That's what I'm saying. There's some pretty remote places here in Michigan. I would go to my cottage in Walkerville, which, if you don't know where Walkerville is, good. That's a good thing. I don't want you to know where Walkerville is. So I'm going to back up in downtown Walkerville because, I can see from the highway, but I can see also everything else that's around me. It's a good little place, So in terms of, I'm going to try to grow my own food, start some crops. Sustainability is a big thing. Obviously defense is one thing, but you want to create something that's sustainable. So try to, maybe grow some crops, grow some veggies. They got a lot of farmers over there. So hopefully it's during the summertime where I can go, not raid some farms, but pay for the stuff. Maybe help them.
Nah,
Maybe
you
build
raid
a
that.
little
Zombie apocalypse,
community
you
out
won't. Law's not real.
But they probably got self defense too. So I don't
true,
want to.
True.
I'm just saying, I don't want to fight with other people. We already got zombies to deal with. So getting them together, building a little commune, and then we should be okay. Because I'm not in a big, heavily populated area. We're not far from Grand Rapids necessarily, but we're an hour and a half away, and I don't know how fast zombies travel.
Yeah, neither do I.
So
I would
we
say
got less zombies to deal with.
I would say I wouldn't last long. I think I would. I live in a populated area. I was telling Nate earlier, 2 miles. You can go 2 miles south, a lot of people. 2 miles north, and there ain't nobody really. So I would have to get in my car, grab some food on the way, or whatever I have in the house, and head out north as quickly as possible. Head out to the Port Huron. I mean, even that's still like populated. So no, I'd have to do a lot. I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball compared to you, Nate, based on the area and where I can go. I don't have a cot. I don't have a cottage or anything. But I have heard the goal to survive a zombie apocalypse is to head north. So and try to be in cold temperatures. Like if it happened right now, I think all the zombies would just die. So
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
all the bugs, everything.
So I guess it depends time of year. But yeah, that's my answer to this.
All right. Okay. Well, watch I Am Legend one of these times. You ever seen I Am Legend?
Never heard of it.
Will Smith classic back in the day. OG Will Smith. You got to watch that one. That's a good one.
I'll take your word for it.
That'll wrap things up here on episode 219 of Inside the Game. We say go blue.
Go blue.
Appreciate you guys stopping by, watching us. As always, we'll be back on Monday, as always, 9 to 11 a.m. here on Inside the Game. We got some guests coming up as well, so keep it locked on that. We'll be announcing that coming up. But we're going to continue to filter some more people in here, give them the platform to be able to talk about their journeys and what else is going on around the soccer space. But until we talk to you guys on Monday, this has been episode 219 of Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.